Alrighty, we are going to get started. Hi everyone, thank you for attending today's webinar, Top 5 Items to Consider When Outsourcing IT Services. My name is Brittany and I will be your moderator for today's webinar. If you are interested, feel free to follow us on social media for updates and resources we are regularly sharing, as well as upcoming webinar information. Before we get started, I do have a few housekeeping items to point out. Everyone will be muted throughout the presentation. If you do have any questions, feel free to use the chat feature to submit those, and we will answer them during the live Q&A at the end. Today's webinar is being recorded, so you will have access to view this recording anytime you'd like at the conclusion of this presentation. Locate the settings gear in the upper left-hand corner in case you need to make any adjustments to those. With that being said, I would like to introduce today's presenter, Matt Szymanski. Matt focuses on sales in our new division for IT services here at Mechdyne. As a global account manager, Matt's responsibilities include managing international resellers, business development, and both domestic and international sales. Prior to his role as a global account manager, Matt served as the Vice President of Products for Mechdyne Software Division, where he assessed client needs, drafted functional specifications, and managed teams to develop solutions to meet those requirements. Regardless if it's AV or IT, Matt utilizes his knowledge to find solutions that best solve our clients' problems. His certifications include OSHA and AVIXA Certified Technology Specialist. Now, without further ado, I will turn this over to Matt to get things started.
Thanks, Brittany. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We like to start all of our meetings with a safety moment. Safety matters at Mechdyne. Every day, we work hard to make certain our teammates work in a safe environment, our visitors and customers have a safe experience, and all our solutions are delivered under the guidance of the best safety practices. So today's safety moment is please don't text and drive. I was a little shocked when I actually looked up this stat, but texting while driving makes an accident up to 23 times more likely to happen. So put the phone down and get there safely, please. I want to kick off today's meeting with a quick webinar, We're going to kick off today's meeting with a quick poll. And the first question for this poll, we'll have two more, is your organization currently outsourcing your level 1 service desk support? And we'd like to know this information so that as we go through the talk, it gives us a flavor for the attendees that are online with us. So I'll give everybody a second to make their answers. Looks like everybody's done, so let's move on to the next slide here. So first, a little bit more about Mechdyne and our company. So Mechdyne started as an AV solution provider. It's a privately held company founded in 1996, and it's most well known for delivering high-end virtual reality, cave display systems, and other large-scale AV systems. It's US-based. We have installations on 6 continents. We have teammates and offices in North America, Europe, Middle East, and Asia Pacific. And over the years, Mechdyne has grown from that original design and integration business. We now have 4 separate business units. So design and integration of AV is the first. We have AV and IT support. This includes ad hoc needs and staff augmentation for helping organizations keep their systems up and running, providing emergency support, or even on-site presence for staff augmentation and helping keep those systems running and operational. We have a software division based on products and professional services. And then we also have a managed services business unit, and that's where today's focus is on our managed services specifically for IT needs. Let me share a little bit about our IT business unit. We acquired this organization in early 2017. They provide primarily service desk support, although we do some additional on-site IT support as well. We also have some proactive desktop management solutions. Our team is highly certified with ITIL and HDI certifications. We have some multi-language capabilities, and we're currently serving clients in 15 countries. So what makes our IT division a little bit different is that it is based on 30 years of IT business experience. We have a very low turnover rate. It is a career path organization, which is not very common for people working in service desk. If anybody has in-house service desk now, they may be struggling with that, with it being an entry-level position and people quickly moving on. At our organization, we hire for what we call PEP, which is personality, energetic, and professionalism. And the reason for that is these are agents that are going to be interacting with end users who are having technical issues and are probably very frustrated when they're calling in for support. And it is much easier to train somebody to gain the technical skills to help somebody than it is to train somebody to be naturally happy. And so we make sure all of our agents come with that type of intrinsic personality, that they are peppy with a good personality and energy. We're very customer focused. We have over 97% customer satisfaction rating for calls and issues that we support. We have an over 90% customer renewal rate, and we're a 100% U.S.-based organization for our agents and call center. So let's get in a little bit into IT policies and practices. Let's set the stage with some background for terminology and other concepts that are common when it comes to IT service desk. So the first one here is ITSM, or IT Service Management. And this refers to the activities that are performed by an organization to design, plan, deliver, operate, and control IT services that are offered to their customers. And by customers, they're end users. This is accomplished through organized and structured policies, processes, and procedures. If ITSM are the actions that an organization takes to support IT, the framework, those actually policies and procedures, there are a variety of different standards that can be used, but a very common one is ITIL. And ITIL, which stands for Information Technology Infrastructure Library, is a set of detailed practices for IT service management, and it focuses on aligning the IT services with the needs of the business. ITIL was actually started by the UK government and is now managed by a company called Axelos. And Axelos is a joint venture between the UK government and Capita, a UK PLC. ITIL describes the processes, procedures, tasks, and checklists that are not organization specific, but these processes can be applied by an organization for establishing integration with its strategy and maintaining a minimum level of competency. It allows the organization to establish a baseline from which it can plan, implement, and measure. Because of its procedures and checklists, ITIL can also be used to demonstrate compliance and to measure improvement. So if ITSM are the activities that need to be performed, ITIL defines how those activities should be performed. When dealing with service desk or IT in general, and especially IT problems, there are several different levels that are defined, 1, 2, and 3. And service desk primarily deals with level 1 support issues. And level 1 issues can be resolved remotely, usually through a predefined set of actions and in relatively short period of time, 10 minutes or so. Examples of these types of issues would include password resets, wireless connectivity, and basic Microsoft Office support. Level 2 issues generally require a physical presence and to resolve those issues and are more in depth. But those issues are usually still specific to a user's workstation or a particular application. And examples of this include Office 365 mailbox administration, driver compatibility problems, maybe troubleshooting Windows crashing problems. Some of the issues do require physical presence, such as replacing a hard drive or failed memory, but some of these may be resolved remotely, just with more time than a level 1 issue. And lastly, there is level 3 issues, which require more in-depth knowledge of the software or infrastructure to resolve those problems. It might even involve the creator or the architect of the system. These issues are typically much more detailed and might be within the infrastructure or network security, and are generally resolved by higher level engineers within the organization. So if those are the types of issues that can be resolved, we should talk a little bit about the types of staff that are used for these different issues. And so here's a little pyramid of levels of positions within an organization. And an agent is usually your first line of defense and are the ones who work the service desk and handle level 1 support issues. Many of these issues can be solved by determining the problem and then executing on a predefined script of actions. Technicians are usually a little more skilled and trained and will handle the level 2 type of issues, which might include, like I said, needing a physical presence to replace memory or fix a hard drive and things of that nature that are still specific to a user's workstation. And then an engineer are the types of staff that handle level 3 support. And they may also be responsible for creating network and infrastructure designs and setup. Any of these staff will usually report to an IT director. The IT director manages these teams that can be made up of agents and technicians and engineers. And the director may be the top IT person in the organization or report to a CTO, depending upon the size of the company. But in a small company, the director of IT may be the only IT person and even handles all of the level 1, 2, and 3 responsibilities. So any one of these levels within this pyramid can be one person or multiple people, depending upon the size of company. And then if a company is large enough and has a CTO, that is usually an executive level position, and all of IT will report to them. And the CTO may then report to a CIO level position. So that was an overview on the roles and responsibilities, policies, procedures for an IT department, or at least to give you a flavor of them. So next, we want to dive into a few more details that are specific to service desk solution. So what is IT service desk and some of the terms associated with it? Well, first, right off the bat, we should define what a service desk is. In the simplest terms, the service desk is the IT support staff that a user contacts when they're having IT issues. From a user's perspective, making contact could be done by a phone call, email, web portal, or it may even be a person that they simply stand up and go find in the office. In this talk, service desk is going to refer to an outsourced team of agents that will field requests from your users. In those contacts, the agent determines if the request qualifies as an incident, and we'll get into that in a second. And if so, a new ticket is created with the information about the issue. And then if the issue can be resolved by the agent, they do so. And if the issue is more complex, it may get escalated back to the organization's internal IT staff. When assessing service desk providers, something to be on the lookout for are low-cost providers and why they are low-cost. And often these low-cost providers use offshore agents and don't have the skills or processes in place to resolve many of the incoming issues. The result is that these providers end up being an overpriced answering service. And all they end up doing is creating a ticket, recording an issue, and passing it back to the organization's internal IT staff. There will always be issues that do need to be logged and routed back to the internal IT staff, whether a level 2 or a level 3 issue. But knowing the percentages of how many of these types of tickets are resolved by your service desk provider versus being routed will generally give you a sense of the provider's capabilities and value. A few more terms to make sure you're aware of when discussing service desk is our SLAs, or service level agreements. An SLA sets up a set of metrics that the service provider must meet, regardless of the amount of resources or staff required to meet those needs. This is very different than a staff augmentation agreement, where a contract defines a number of full-time engineers or full-time employees to be provided to accomplish a service. A contact, somewhat self-defining, is the number of times an organization's users contact support, whether it's phone, email, chat, web portal, or other. And then incidents are the number of actual new tickets that are created from being contacted about an issue. And in the service desk industry, there's it's pretty standard that about 1.5 contacts result in an incident being created. So there's a number of contacts that are made that really don't require a ticket or a support response. So within SLAs, or the service level agreements, there are also some very common metrics that are used, and these are defined within the SLAs or the contract with your service desk provider to describe the level of support that you're going to receive from that service desk provider. So the first one here is average speed to answer, which can also be thought of as the response time. So this is the amount of time in seconds it takes for an agent to answer an inbound call. And if it is a call, not necessarily a chat or an email, but if it is a call, most SLAs strive for less than 60 seconds. Email responses are usually measured more in minutes, but calls and chats may be within seconds. After that, you want to know how many incidents are resolved on that first call or contact with the support desk, and that's first contact resolution. Next is resolution time, which could be the amount of time it takes an agent to resolve an issue that they are expected to be able to resolve. So assuming it is a level 1 issue that they should be able to resolve, what is the amount of time that it takes an agent to resolve it? And for level 1 issues, this normally is less than 10 minutes. We currently average about 6.5 to 7 minutes for our contacts and our clients. And then another metric is customer satisfaction rating. And that's to make sure your users are having a good experience when interacting with that agent. Again, users call up IT tech support often when they're already frustrated and are having a problem. They're generally not already starting in a happy state. So it's important that their interaction with service desk not only resolves their issue, but leaves them with a positive experience. So we're going to stop here for a second and take another quick poll. And in this poll, we want to ask our participants here, how satisfied are you and your users with your current level 1 IT support? And it doesn't matter if it's in-house or out-of-house, but we just want to get a gauge on how what the satisfaction level is with your company's current IT support. So I'll give everyone a few seconds to submit their answers. Okay, thank you very much for everybody for responding. So now that we've set the stage with the IT policies and procedures and an introduction to what service desk is and the metrics by which it is measured, next we'll talk about the top 5 items to consider before outsourcing your service desk. So number 1 has to do with cost and price, right? Every business decision, eventually cost is a factor. And so the first thing to consider are both the hard and soft costs associated with service desk support and how they might be affecting your bottom line. One of the first costs to consider are spikes in IT service needs from your users. With an outsourced service desk support, your provider is going to have far more agents to pull from to meet peak periods of activities while still meeting those SLAs for your response time and resolution time. On the contrary, if you have a fixed number of in-house support staff and a major IT event happens or a problem occurs, that could result in a backlog of support incidents that may take you days for your team to recover from. And when that happens, you need to consider the cost due to the lost productivity of your users during these times. It's not just the cost of the IT staff, it's the cost of lost productivity when they're waiting. If they're normally waiting 60 seconds for IT to pick up a phone call, they end up waiting 10 minutes. Or do they just hang up and try to solve the problem on their own, and they get stuck for 30 minutes on something that could have taken 5 minutes if somebody was there to answer it for them. Similarly, with an in-house staff, too often higher salaried engineers that should be focused on corporate initiatives and infrastructure get pulled into firefighting these low-level IT issues. This takes a toll on their job satisfaction, but it's also very costly to the company because they're higher paid positions, and having to use your technicians or engineers for agent-level responsibilities is just a recipe for wasteful spending. And then another aspect of cost and support downtime is after-hours and weekend support. Additional full-time employees or after-hours overtime or employees being on call would be necessary for a company to handle this in-house. It's very difficult for an organization to provide in-house after-hours and weekend support at a competitive cost to an outsourced provider, because that outsourced provider will already have staff to answer and respond to issues around the clock. So number 2 is going to be the quality of your level 1 IT support when in-house versus outsourced. The breadth of knowledge base is both an internal and an external variable, and the quality of your IT support comes from a variety of factors. An outsourced provider is going to have far more agents on staff than an organization will internally. And this allows that provider and their agents to gain technical knowledge across many different clients and create a far larger knowledge base than many companies would on their own. So when looking for an outsourced provider, also consider the quality of the experience the users are going to have. And if it is an overseas, out-of-country support desk, are your users going to have issues with dialects or language barriers, especially when they're already calling in, having a problem, and may already be at a highly frustrated state? You don't want them also having to deal with support agents that aren't understanding their problem and able to resolve it for them. Number 3 is tracking the right metrics. And this goes back to the ITSM, the IT service management, and being able to have the right software in place to record issues and track the right metrics. So tracking the right metrics starts with that ITSM software, and as incidents are recorded and resolved, it's important that someone is reviewing those incidents as well as looking for trends. You want to know, are the same issues coming up over and over, and if so, why? A good outsourced service provider should have processes in place for reviewing incidents and performing a root cause analysis. Also, with a good service provider, certain types of incidents should decrease over time, allowing them to grow into solving more and different types of issues for you in the future, continuing to provide more value as the contract goes on. And lastly, by looking at the metrics, it should become obvious if that service provider is just a glorified answering service. It's important to look at the metrics for first contact resolution, as well as the number of incidents that are being routed back to the client's internal IT staff. Number 4 on our list is the difficulty with level 1 IT staffing. So when considering in-house or outsourced service provider, another important criteria to consider is HR related. Level 1 IT agents in that position, it's not typically a career destination for many individuals. And trying to do in-house support often results in this revolving door of hire, train, and replace with your level 1 agent. With an outsourced provider, there are many more agents on staff, And so as they change jobs through promotions or typical turnover, the provider still has a large pool of agents so that your level of service is consistent. If an in-house service desk of just 2 or 3 people loses one person, that's suddenly a large percentage of lost capacity. And then not only is there a constant cost of that hire, train, replace efforts from your human resources, but losing staff at level 1 results in several costly effects. First, higher salaried engineers get pulled into backfill workloads, and that's not an effective use of their cost to the company. And then second, there are disruptions and potential increases for downtime or lack of service for your users, resulting in lost productivity by them. And the 5th item to consider here is don't be an IT support business. Basic IT services should either just work or be easily fixed with a call for service, and they shouldn't be part of your company's core responsibility. Similarly to not having to worry about electricity or water being available in your company, items like password resets, access to network drives and printers, these are things that should be easily resolved and not take vital resources away from corporate objectives. Your IT staff should be focused on strategies that are key to your company's success and not problems that are commonplace across every technology user, let alone within your organization. So make use of these knowledge bases that are available from Service Desk and not have it be your internal responsibility. So the next slide here, with those 5 items behind us, or 5 items to consider, we put together a few more slides here for things to consider when you're evaluating a service desk provider. And so assuming you've gone through these items and agree that it does make fiscal sense to outsource, the next step for you to do would be to learn what are the key things to keep in mind when investigating a particular service provider. So one is staffing and pricing models. Staffing models may have dedicated agents that only support your organization's needs, or it might be a shared pool of agents where a pool of agents are trained on your IT processes and procedures specifically, or only. The shared model may allow for better leveling of some metrics like response time, as there are more agents to pull from during incident spikes. But the model may also change based upon your coverage needs. So understanding if a service provider can provide dedicated or shared agents or a hybrid model to meet your needs is something to investigate. And then pricing models can also vary based on items like numbers of incidents and time spent on a call. So be wary of pricing models that don't encourage the service provider to resolve issues quickly, such as paying per minute. Also, be sure to understand how costs change if there are spikes in the volume of incidents, or what happens if they're not able to meet your SLAs. Another item to keep in mind is if it's going to be an onshore or offshore service provider. Where will those service desk agents be located? Will your user satisfaction be acceptable as they run into language barriers when they're already calling frustrated with an IT issue that's been stopping them from working? When your users call for support, they're already starting in that unhappy state, and will an offshore support team only exacerbate their mood? And how important is that to you, that your users are happy and working productively and in a positive state? Another thing to keep in mind is how is the service desk provider going to increase their value to you over time? And metrics are critical to knowing how that service provider is performing. So be sure to investigate what information they will be providing, how it will be shared, and how often. Also, is your service desk provider implementing any cost reduction methods? For example, is there a cost per contact or incident? Do they have an interactive voice routing system that can warn users of a particular ongoing issue or outage? That way new tickets aren't being created for an existing known problem, especially if you're being charged per ticket. Also, what is the service provider doing to improve the knowledge of their agents as well as your users so that they can help lessen downtime and increase efficiency of services as time goes on? And one more thing to keep in mind are the implementation efforts. What upfront efforts will the service desk provider perform for you? How much time will the service provider spend learning about your processes and workflows? How will they document that for their agents? How much upfront effort are they going to put in to ensure you transition to an improved experience? Or are they just going to wing it and kind of learn as they go while they start taking your support calls from your users? So with that, I do want to go into one last poll. And so this question is, if you are with an organization that's currently not outsourcing your service desk, do you believe your company may benefit from it? So I'll give everybody a second here to answer those questions. Okay, thank you for everybody who answered. So with that, we're going to jump into the Q&A session. And we do have one of our subject matter experts with us here today. We have Brian Nunziato. And so I'm going to open up the floor here. I'm assuming Brittany's been watching the chat box and has recorded some questions from the audience. So Brittany, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Yeah, great, thanks. So Brian, the first question is, do you offer real-time reporting and service summary dashboards for IT engineers or management?
Thanks, Brittany. That's a great question. We do get that question a lot, actually. Simple answer is yes, absolutely we do. Mechdyne leverages a real-time reporting engine that's built right into our ITSM platform. So that allows IT users to design and view fully customizable dashboard of information. And we can display reports in the traditional single frame, or we can use multiple frames to display a variety of information all at once, which is great when you've got that IT supervisor that needs the quick overview of a lot of pieces of information to see how teams are doing. In addition to that, all of our ITSM reports and dashboard views are ad hoc. And what that means is that they can be created and maintained by each IT user individually without the need or cost to engage the Mechdyne development team.
Great, great. All right. So our next question is, do you adhere with any regulatory compliance standards for data management, such as ISO, HIPAA, or others?
Yes, we certainly do. In fact, Mechdyne must certify and comply with Protected Health Information, PHI, Personally Identifiable Information, PII, and the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, which everyone is very familiar with as HIPAA. Those standards are required for us to service clients in the healthcare and insurance industries.
All right. Another question, does your team have the flexibility to work with other ticketing systems, or is your service dependent upon your own?
No, in fact, we work with a variety of different ticketing systems, including ServiceNow, Remedy, Surewell. Gosh, there's Spiceworks. There's so many out there, and we've successfully implemented clients that are using a number of those. So we are able to work with all of those. We've done integrations with those. We certainly offer our own tool, Service Manager. But one of the advantages, since our service desk teammates are very well versed in a variety of those different systems, it does make that integration and familiarity so much smoother when we move into a new IT environment.
Great. All right. So the last question we're going to take today is all your support handled in-house, or do you leverage subcontractors for more complicated tiers of technical assistance?
No, I'm very pleased to say that all of our technicians and engineers are all in-house, and we have all of that expertise right under one roof, so we're able to offer that level 1, level 2, and 3 support services both on-site and remote to our customers without looking at any subcontractors. The advantage, of course, is that we're also able to maintain the training and the quality of those engineers as well.
Great. All right. Well, thanks, Brian, for answering those questions. With that, we're going to wrap things up. Just be looking for the recording in your inbox, and we hope everyone has a great rest of their week.